Yeah. Well, I might have the chat up. It says it is, so we'll see. But I just
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. It's been a while, but I mean, we do try to get more guests. It's just hard at times. Today we're on, let me check, round 3 for Scipher and Craig Swanson. So, Craig's been on, this is Craig's 6th time on the channel, I think, even. No, wait, 5th. I don't know. Never mind. Go check out the other shows because they're good. And so I'll bring in our guest first. So we've got Scipher and Craig. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
welcome.
I do have one question for Craig, and then we can get on with the show because I've been getting a whole lot of messages after you and I did a show, Craig. You said.
Sure.
You said you had evidence of a secular scientist that the Grand Canyon wasn't formed by the Colorado River, but instead by Noah's flood, and you were going to send me a link after the show. I still don't have that link. So
Okay, well, you're saying it close. What I did have was a YouTube video where a Christian creation scientist said that secular scientists are beginning to see that they didn't necessarily say it's by Noah's flood, but they said by a big lake up in that area that broke open piece by piece and caused the Grand Canyon. So that's what they said.
I'm pretty sure that wasn't the claim you made. So and a video. I mean, we can all make videos. That doesn't say much. What we need are scientific papers. But yeah, I was really hoping to get that. Okay, so few rules, guys. Let's keep the over talking to a bare minimum, and also, if that happens, let's keep talking about being overtalked to a bare minimum as well. That's the only 2 rules that I have for now, based on some previous things on Twitter where things got out of hand a little bit. So I think as always, I don't have to do much, but the floor is yours.
Okay. Go for it. You want to start, Scipher?
I don't know. Should we go into introductions again, like we've done before, or just go right into whatever we're going to talk about?
Yeah.
All right.
Have your introduction. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm been a science teacher for almost 20 years. Grew up in a household where the science was always being, I should say, taught, I guess. I mean, that's how I learned a lot of stuff before actually getting to school. With a mother who's a master gardener and a father who was an environmental engineer. When I started college, I started with a degree in cultural anthropology, studying comparative religion, where I took some classes at seminary, as well looking at the history of the Bible Bible's literature. And when I transferred, I decided to switch my degree to pure biology. So I went into evolutionary biology. I also tutored statistics. My minor is in statistics. And I really got into the creationism concept when I was in high school due to the court ruling of Edwards versus Aguillard, which was in the late 1980s, and really started to look at a lot of the information that was out there. And ever since then, I've been really studying creationism as much as I was studying biology. In college, I actually had a professor, David Milne, who debated Duane Gish in 1978. And he was a mentor for me when I was in college, and was one of the reasons that I started to look at a dual degree in philosophy of science, bachelor's of arts in philosophy of science as a dual degree, studying the history of creationism from the 1850s to the present, and the present at that point being the early 2000s. So I've been doing this for a long time, and feel like I know like more about creationism than most creationists do, because they will throw out these concepts and not even know where they come from. So long background in it, and during and after pursuing my bachelor's of arts, I have been and still am collecting a lot of creationist literature, so I know the arguments pretty well.
Okay, so I guess real quickly, I grew up in an atheist home, and I guess the closest thing I had to going to church when I was a kid was the preacher from down the street would ask me to, or pay me to shovel the walk when it snowed. So that's about it. Maybe that's not totally true. My next door neighbor took me to church when I was like 4, and I cried so much that I just walked out of the church and walked home. So I guess other than that, not much until I got quite a bit older. And then I believed everything evolution said. My parents gave me books to read about evolution, and I believed every bit of it. Couldn't convince me differently. I was happy to say that I used to be a monkey, and it didn't bother me at all. And then one day a guy showed me a chick track, which I know, Scipher, you think it was done by a bunch of crooks, but it made me start looking at things. And so now, as I look at things from a different point of view, which is a big deal, because you're looking at things in such a way that you want to believe science no matter what. And I prefer to look at science now more as a logical thing. For instance, we just recently had a conversation on CO2 causing global warming. And when you look at the numbers, it's almost impossible. So, if it makes any sense to anybody listening, if you know what 4% and 1% is, well, first of all, 1% of 100 is almost nothing. And then you only take 4% of that 1%. That's how much CO2 is in the air today. And in 1958, when they first started doing it, it was at like 315, if I remember. So that means it's gone up like 110 or something. I'm not doing the math right now, but so it's gone up like 100 parts per million. So that now it's up to 4%, 4% and 1%, whereas before it's 3% and 1%. And still, that's nothing. And so it appears that everybody who believes in evolution believes that CO2 is causing global warming. Now, I'm not denying global warming is happening. That's not my point. But I'm just saying that CO2 cannot be the reason. I said it can be the urban, what do they call that? The urban heat shield, because they know that cities are warmer than out of town. So, and cars driving around cause heat, and air conditioners running everywhere, those cause heat. So I think the Earth can be warmed by people, but not by the CO2. But every evolutionist believes that it's caused by CO2, and I just think it's impossible. It just doesn't make any sense. So So that said, and I don't think anybody's dumb for believing that, because without a change in the way I look at things, I'd probably believe the same way myself. So, but now I don't believe hardly anything that anybody says until I look into it, and I try to get the best explanation that makes the most common sense. So that's my change in my life, and that all happened about almost 50 years ago now. It's been 47 years ago. That's when I started looking at things from a different lens, and I just haven't turned back to the old lens. So that's where I'm at, and you guys are in my old lens, and I'm just not there anymore. So that's my story.
All right. So quite a few things to go over, I'm sure, that we
Mhm.
won't be able to cover all of them, but hopefully we'll be able to, address a lot of it. So,
Sure.
to start out with this CO2 thing,
Mhm.
there's been many people on Twitter who talked about this, including myself with you.
Mhm.
And, saying that it's evolutionists, of course, is a straw man and a red herring, because it's not. It has nothing to do with evolution.
No, I never said it
The
did.
fact
I never said it did
you
either.
you said evolutionists.
I
So
said most. I
so
said
you
evolutionists
said
seem to believe in that.
you
Is what I
said
said.
yes. You said
I didn't.
evolutionists, right?
It has nothing to do with evolution.
So if we're going, well, this is one reason that I brought this up with you in our previous conversations. You basically use the term evolutionists for any scientific field that you do not agree with. And that's what it comes down to. You use this as a term to denigrate scientists because you think that it's evolution versus creationism, when really what it is, and this, comes back to Edwards versus Aguillard, it comes back to the fact that creationism is a pseudoscientific theology. It is not science. And so it's really the theology of creationism versus reality. Basically, every known field of science refutes what you're saying. So getting specifically to CO2, myself and many others have talked about the fact that, if you're going to use the 1958 data, and that's when we first had monitoring of CO2 at Kilauea, at Mauna Loa in Hawaii, where they put up a sensor to basically pick up how much CO2 has changed in the atmosphere over time. Yes, that was the first time that we started to measure it with, uh, physical, mechanical devices actually collecting CO2 out of the air. But the CO2 that we have in the air, we know the actual numbers. This is a undisputed fact, which I brought up to you before, is that the fact is that we have CO2 data going back approximately 800,000 years. And we have that from various sources. We have it from ice cores. We have it mainly from, going back the farthest with ice cores, but that's correlated with the fact that we have dendrochronology, basically using tree rings, as well as the fact that we have things called varves, which, last time you had a really hard time following that, and I had to show you how to use the search on Twitter to show you that I've sent you numerous articles about varves as well, VA, RVES. So all of these things, they're independent sources. They're all facts, undeniable facts, that we have these annual layers where we know how much CO2 is in the air. And we can show how that correlates with global trends in climate. And of course, there's the whole thing about, what is the difference between climate and weather. And we actually know the climate was cooler back then. We know that weather events have increased because of global warming over time. And we know the fact, because of isotopes of carbon and isotopes of oxygen, that has changed over time. So sticking with this point, just so we don't go off, on a gish gallop, which seems to be what, creationists like yourself always do. Let's stick with the facts. The facts are, no, a gish gallop is a well-known thing. You're going to bring up something else that's unrelated to distract from the conversation that we're trying to have at the time and the evidence that's trying to be presented. So going back to these three different things, again, dendrochronology, tree rings, varves, which are layers found in certain lakes around the world that have annual layers, and of course tree rings are annual layers, and ice cores, which are annual layers. We know these are all annual layers because of the ways that they are made from trees or from sediments in lakes, or from the fact that you have annual ice layers that show the difference between summer and winter. All of these three things give us CO2 dates, or CO2 amounts in the atmosphere going back almost 1 million years. And the way that we know this, not only because they're annual layers, but due to the fact of radiometric dating. So now we have two different separate things to look at. We have the annual layers, and we have the fact that we can take the different radioactive isotopes out of those substances, out of the varves, out of the ice cores, and out of the tree rings, and we can look at those. And this is not just C14. This is not just carbon-14. You know, there's other elements that radioactively decay. There's different isotopes. So for example, we have beryllium-10. Beryllium-10 has a half-life of about 1.4 million years. And we have chlorine-36. And chlorine-36 has a half-life of about 301,000 years. So all of these different pieces of evidence, and I'm not even getting into the isotopes of oxygen that can show us the temperatures at that time from these annual layers, because if you didn't know, because of different isotopes of oxygen weighing different amounts, we can determine the temperatures of these paleoclimates. So let's start with that, because I think this is a good place to start, because it also goes into your claims about there only being one ice age, and you think that last ice age happened, if I remember correctly, you said about 400 to 500 years after your mythological Milwaukee flood, which of course is refuted by all known evidence. And not only all known evidence, is refuted by history and archaeology and other things. But, you know, going back, let's just talk about those three things: dendrochronology, varves, and ice cores. They're all annual layers. Why do you not accept those? And why do you, and if you accept those in any way, how do they provide a model, which in science is known as a scientific theory? How do those provide evidence for your claim?
Okay, well, are you ready? Okay, so let's talk about the ice cores. So as you know, every summer is warmer and every winter is colder, of course. And some winters are colder, some winters are warmer. So to use ice cores as a time literally makes no sense whatsoever in any kind of logical sense.
Wait a second.
So,
I already explained this to you on Twitter, that we know for a fact those ice cores are accurate. And I just repeated it now. We know for a fact those ice cores are accurate because of radioactive dating, and because we know they are annual layers. And I talked about this on Twitter. The fact that you have basically different layers of the ice that look differently. I can show you, and in fact, I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to start, during our conversation, I'm going to actually put tweets out showing what you're saying is completely wrong. So for example, with ice cores, we know that during the summer months, there's less snow, and that you get some glazing over because of some slight melting. And that's different than in the winter, where you basically have these colder conditions. And we get these ice cores mainly from Greenland. You said Iceland last time. From Greenland and Antarctica. And we know for a fact that, again, those ice cores are radiometrically dated. We can see the annual layers in them, because summer you get a glazing over and winter you get more snow that turns into ice because it's compacted. And again, I'm not just talking about carbon-14 for radiometrically dating these ice layers, varves, and the tree rings. We're talking about the fact that, you know, we have the radiometric dating and the annual layers. And again, going back almost 1 million years with ice cores, with varves and tree rings, they go back less, but they go back far beyond your mythological flood and even your mythological creation event around 6,000 years ago.
Okay.
And the reason I bring this up is you can't claim that you're using the same evidence because of that, to say that you have a model. And the one thing that Peter did with this show is he basically, the title of the show is that, are you finally going to present evidence? I'd say that you claim that you're using the same evidence as science does for your creationist theology, but we've never seen that because you never actually provide a model, a scientific theory to back up your claims. So basically you're making claim after claim after claim instead of actually providing us a model that we can test using the evidence that you claim is the same that science is using.
All right, fair enough. That's a pretty good explanation. I disagree with it, but that's okay. It's okay for us
Why
to
do you
disagree, right?
wait? Why do you disagree with it?
Well, for instance, the radiometric dating that you're talking about is
Of
carbon-14.
carbon-14, of beryllium-10, of chlorine-36, and we can get into a whole bunch of other radioactive isotopes as well.
Okay, so I did ask, not to answer all your accusations one at a time, but to move on.
They're not
to the subject
they're
I
not
wanna talk
accusations. I'm providing facts. So don't.
Well,
don't
in my mind, they're accusations.
don't-
So you can call them facts
don't-
if you want. So,
Guys,
Don't
hold on just a second.
Yeah.
Scipher, let Craig finish and then respond once he's finished, because otherwise he's not going to get a word in.
Oh yes, but he shouldn't be gaslighting.
No,
That's the whole
I
point.
know, but let him at least explain what he thinks and then respond to it.
yeah, you just remember, Scipher, I'm only giving you my opinion. Okay, and I've looked at videos and I've read a lot of different papers. I read a whole lot of your guys' stuff. I read a lot of it. So I mean, it's not like I'm without knowledge, like you seem to think I am. But I've read a lot of stuff, and I don't think I'm stupid. Maybe you do, but I sure don't. So that's where I'm coming from. So so I asked Melanie the other day, is there carbon-14 dating in ice cores? And she couldn't give me an answer on that. So I don't know what that means exactly, but and now again, I don't have this answer. So I'm just kind of, I'm always searching for answers, but I don't know that they have an answer for carbon-14 dating in the ice cores.
I sent you a scientific paper that shows that there is carbon-14 dating in ice cores. So, and I'm looking up right now to see what you're saying is true about Melanie.
Okay, that's fine. So so at any rate, going back to the carbon-14 dating real quick. So what my people tell me is that carbon-14 dating is pretty accurate up to about 3,000 years. And after that,
wait a second. Wait, you've already said before it's accurate to almost 60,000 years.
I never said that.
I can pull up the tweet.
Why would I say that?
Because you have.
Because I don't believe that. So I would never have said that. So unless I was drunk, which I'm sure I wasn't, but you guys like to accuse me of being drunk sometimes, which is pretty funny. But
something I have never said.
Yeah, maybe you haven't, but different people have. So I know,
which has nothing to do
Yeah.
with the conversation we're having right now.
That's great, and then I'm happy to hear that. So, and I like a conversation. I just don't like all that crazy accusations that people say. So, but any rate, so um, so I think when you're talking ice, you cannot even. There's no way you can say that because it's 6 feet down or 100 feet down, you can't say it's 300 million years old or whatever you come up with, or 300,000. You can't. It's impossible because
So
one year.
why are
Well,
those
listen.
why are those layers not annual?
Because well, first of all, one layer would be there might be 6 layers the same year for one. There might be 10 the same year. There
How
might
do
be
you know
30
that?
the same
Wait,
year.
wait, now
I mean,
you're making
that's ridiculous to think there's only one layer in
no,
1 year. That's
no,
ridiculous.
now you're making a claim that you have to provide evidence for when myself and others have already shown that they are annual layers. And again, they match with dendrochronology and varves.
Okay, well, maybe. I don't know. It just doesn't make any common sense. It makes no common sense.
That right there is basically you saying that you're ignorant and incredulous. That has nothing to do with our conversation. It doesn't matter if it's your opinion, which you just said, it's my opinion. It doesn't matter that you have never researched this topic.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Have you ever been up in like northern Canada?
I think I've told you before. My parents are Canadian, so yeah, I've been.
Oh, that's
in
great.
northern
That's
Canada.
super awesome. So you know what ice looks like, right?
And this has to do with what?
I'm going to tell you. So
Yeah,
if
I'm waiting.
you go up to northern Canada, and I'm not from that far north, but I do know that when I see snowstorms, they don't look like just one. If a snowstorm comes in and then it stays cold, another snowstorm comes in, it stays cold, another snowstorm comes in, it stays cold. They look like different levels. They don't look like just one.
Wait a second. Now you're.
That's not just 1 year. That is impossible to be 1 year.
Wait a second.
And I've seen these.
Now you're ignoring what I brought up earlier about how we know that these are annual layers and ice cores.
Okay, then what part of that am I ignoring? Because what I see with my eyes is one thing.
Again,
right?
radium.
Now wait a minute.
Again,
back up for 1 second.
Radiometric dating, and then we have the glazing over during the summer of these ice cores that are found in places that hardly ever reach, above the freezing mark in Antarctica and in Greenland.
Yeah.
And again, going back to the fact that they match up with 2 separate sources, with dendrochronology and with varves, that are also annual layers.
Well, I'm not sure I believe that.
It doesn't matter if you believe it or not. It's just a fact, Craig. That's the point that I'm keep bringing up. It's just a fact.
But again, my eyes see a snowstorm, then I see another snowstorm.
It doesn't.
Then I see another snowstorm.
It doesn't
I see
matter.
another snowstorm. Now let me finish what I'm saying. Let me finish what I'm saying.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what you're saying is you can go through that ice core and chop off 1 year, take some carbon-14 out of it.
No, a core. A core means that you're drilling down and you're pulling up this huge, this very long, 2 or 3 meters worth of ice, and you're seeing the layers. Okay, good.
Yep.
Because
I know that.
we're not taking like certain layers.
Okay.
It's not like we're shaving one off and shaving another off. We're taking the whole thing out. We're keeping it in an environment so it doesn't get contaminated with outside, stuff.
Yeah. And
Whatever
I've looked up videos and I've seen that all done. I've seen it all done. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
It doesn't seem like it.
So you're saying you can lay it on its side in one of those frozen places where they store them at. And I've seen them. There's hundreds of them. They got hundreds of them all lined up. And they're all laying on their side and they've been core drilled and there they are. And I know what a core drill is and all that. So you're saying that you can go to one of them and let's just say you go to one end of it and you carbon date it. It's going to be, what's the youngest you do carbon dating? 50 years? You're going to go 50 years right at the top, go down another half an inch or whatever you think it is. And then you're going to find it's going to be 51 years. And then another half an inch, it's going to be 52 years.
It doesn't have anything to do with inches. It has to do with us looking at the annual layers.
It has to.
It has nothing to do
It
with us
has
looking
to.
at,
No,
again,
nope.
it has
You're not making any sense.
nothing,
You're making no sense.
it has nothing to do with us going down inches. It's us looking at the layers. We can
Okay,
see where
fair
the
enough.
summer layer is compared to the winter layer because they look different.
Okay, fine. So let's go down through one summer layer and one winter layer, carbon date it, go down through the next one, carbon date it, ding, 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 ding. Let's go down 100 of them. It better be 100 years later. And I
And
don't think that's true. I don't
it
think
doesn't,
that's true. I
it
don't think
doesn't,
you can say that.
it doesn't matter what you think, Craig. That's the whole point here, is that myself and others have already given you scientific papers that show that's
That's not
what
my
it is.
point.
That's a fact.
But answer my question. Can you do that year by year and get that? Can you or not?
Can you do what year by year and get what?
Okay, let's just say that you're trying to say that let's just say an inch. I'm just going to throw that number out. It means nothing. I'm just
Inches,
saying
yeah, inches don't mean nothing. Again, they're annual layers. We can see the distinct layers
fair.
from
That's
summer
great.
to winter.
Exactly. So let's just say one
stop
summer.
using inches. Just say
Let's say
annual
one summer.
layers, because that's what it is.
They're what?
Just
They're
say
annual layers, right?
Just say annual layers, because again, we can see the difference between the snow that is deposited in the summer compared to the snow that is deposited in the winter. We can do that
Fair
with
enough.
trees, and we can do that with varves. So stop using inches. It's meaningless. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Perfect. Perfect. If you want to say it like that, that's okay too. So let's count down the winter and the summers in the core drill. Let's count down 80 from today or 100 from today. Am I going to be carbon 14 dated to 100 years?
Or 10,000 from today.
No, no. I want to go down 100 years. Can I do that?
10,000 from today we can do. With ice cores, we can go down, again, almost 1,000,000 years from today.
You're not answering my question, Scipher.
What's your question?
Please. Okay. My question is, can you, because you're saying they're annual layers.
Which is a fact,
annual
yes.
layers, that means one every year.
Yes.
And you're telling me that you can count down those layers, count down 100 layers. Let's count down 1,000 of them for you. Let's count down 500. And I can take a little chunk out of there, take it to the carbon 14 lab, and it's going to tell me that it's whatever, 500 years old. Go down 1,000, pull a chunk out of there, it's 1,000 years old. Pull a chunk out of there because I've counted down 1,000 summers and winters, and then I'm going to get, and that carbon 14 dating is going to be absolutely accurate. Is that what you're telling me?
And it's not only carbon 14 dating, it is other radioactive isotopes as well, which I've already explained.
Not my question.
No, because this goes along with it.
Is the carbon 14?
Yes, the
Just
carbon
answer my
14 is
question.
accurate. Yes, the carbon 14 is accurate because we can compare it with known dates of objects found throughout the world. We can compare it with varves. We can compare it with dendrochronology, which is tree rings. And we don't have just carbon 14. That's the point you keep missing.
No, I'm not missing.
We have other radioactive isotopes that we can use as well. So they correlate with carbon 14 dating.
Come on, just answer my question.
I just did. Yes, it's accurate.
You didn't.
Carbon 14
you
is
did
accurate.
not.
What was your question?
I'm asking you a question. Yes or no?
What is your question?
Can I go back, count those layers in those ice cores, 500 years, winter, summer, winter, summer, winter, summer, 500 times, and will that show me that it is carbon 14 dating only? I know there's other ways you want to do it, but can I go carbon 14 dating it? Will it say it's 500 years old?
Yes.
Okay.
What's so hard with that?
I don't know that they can do that.
That is your ignorance and incredulity. That has nothing.
No,
that's not evidence of anything. That's evidence that you don't understand the process. That's all it is.
No, that's not bad. I just don't know that they've done that. I've never read where they've done that. That's all.
I've sent you, and other people have sent you the papers. So I'm sorry that you choose to be ignorant about this topic. That's what it comes down to. I don't know that they've done that. It's just guessing. What you're saying is basically that you haven't seen it, so it must not exist. That's all you're saying.
Are you saying you believe things that even if you don't see them? Is that what you're saying?
No, I think that's what you're saying.
I'm saying I got to be shown.
And people have sent you scientific papers showing that that's actually what happens.
I've never seen them.
All right. time to start writing down links that have already been sent to you by myself and others that show that you've already been presented this information. And you're choosing to ignore it is what it comes down to.
Well, I'm not sure they're answered quite the way that I just answered you the question either.
Well,
I'm going to look right now. I got my other computer up.
They are because, again, the papers have been sent to you. Let's see. Yeah. There was actually one website I sent you showing exactly this. And I'm going to look it up right now just so I don't get it wrong. There it is. Yep, there it is. Okay, ice core data, www.co2.earth/CO2-ice-core.
Okay, back up. www.co2 what?
.earth
Mm-hmm.
/CO2-ice-core-data. And that gives us ice core data going back 2 million years. Wow, pretty cool.
So by hyphen you mean a dash, right?
Yep.
Okay, CO2 hyphen then what?
Oh boy, Craig. I'm just going to send it to you on Twitter because
I have to read it later then. I'm trying to read it right now.
No, you can just open it up right now. You don't have to read it later. You can open it up right now.
I can't get to Twitter right now. It's on my phone. I don't have it.
And it's not on your computer.
Oh, let me see if I can find it again. I guess you did help me get back on Twitter on my computer here. Let me see if I can figure that out again. Oh, to sign in, I got to go to my email. It's on what I'm talking on, so I don't want to go there. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I can get there from here.
Yeah, maybe it's not that handy to do things on Twitter because the people who are watching can't see it anyway. So I don't think that would be a smart move.
So my point is
that's why we need to get screen share going, Peter. It'd be so much better if we could just throw that up there.
I think I can make that happen if you have something.
Oh, good.
You can put the link in the private chat here, and then I'll see if I can pull it up.
All right, there you go. Done. But again, getting back to what I was just talking about with this is one set of data from multiple areas. That's just ice cores. The most famous ice cores are from Greenland, and they are from Antarctica.
Sure.
We have other ice cores other places in the world. Those aren't the only two ice cores. We've got multiple ice cores from multiple places. But
fair enough.
What I am bringing up again and again is that these ice cores and the radioactive elements within inside of them, the radioactive isotopes within inside of them, are not just found in ice cores. They're also found in trees through dendrochronology, and they're also found in varves, which are sediments in certain types of lakes around the world that produce annual layers. So those are three independent pieces of evidence.
Yeah, but again, you're not answering my question directly.
Which was what question?
Okay. By the way, that did just pop up on my screen on my phone. So, and it did take me a while to read that. But so my question is, can you go back, count those every year rings you're talking about in the ice cores, and go grab a piece of it and take it to carbon-14 lab, and they'll say, oh, that's exactly within a certain amount of time. I mean, I know there's plus or minus on the carbon-14.
Yes, you can.
That is 500 years old.
And
Well,
again, other people have pointed this out to you. It's not just me who's pointed this out to you. Other
well, I've
people
never
have
seen
pointed this out to you and sent you numerous scientific papers on this. So it's not just, you know, myself saying it. It's other people, and it's all these scientists who do research on this topic.
Okay, fair enough. But I haven't seen it, so
It doesn't matter if you haven't seen it. It's just a fact.
it does. It does to me.
Well,
Am I important? Am I not important to you?
the thing is that this evidence has been presented to you, but for some reason you have never looked it up.
No,
You know,
I
this
look at
comes
your
up.
evidence.
No,
I
no,
look at
you,
your evidence all the time, Scipher.
Guys-
Don't
but
say that.
Guys, if
But
I can,
apparently you don't.
if I can briefly interrupt, I have the screenshot ready, and I do have
nice.
one question. I do have one question for Craig. Have you seen God ever?
No,
Okay.
No.
So that's because you said if you haven't seen it, you don't believe it. I was just
no,
curious.
that's not. That's a different analogy, but that's fun. That's a fun one, though. I appreciate that.
It's the same thing, but okay. So
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to say that.
there we go.
There we go. Yeah, and then just scroll down a little bit, and you'll see. Is this a live feed that you're showing us, Peter?
Yes, I can scroll.
Oh, good.
down.
Yeah, scroll down a little bit more, a little bit more. Oh, look at that, right there. 1,000 years. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, 1,000 years, 400,000 years, 650,000 years, 800,000 years, 1 million years, 2 million years. And it gives links to all the papers.
Okay. Now, is that all carbon-14 dating? I didn't know you could go that far with carbon dating. So did we change the subject?
Again, I've already addressed this. We do not have just carbon dating. It is,
But I'm not asking about the other one.
It is annual
I don't care
layers.
about the other ones right now.
It is
I do
annual
care.
layers. It is annual layers. And not only is it annual layers, we also have other radioactive isotopes that back this up. So it
You don't
doesn't
have to repeat yourself. I mean, I get it. I get it. So, but I'm not asking that. I'm only asking carbon-14 dating. If you throw in the other stuff, then we're talking. Then you've changed the subject on me. So,
No, haven't changed the subject at all. It's still all
You
radiometric
have.
dating. It's just using different
I
isotopes.
only want the carbon-14 side of it. So
Why only the carbon-14, Craig?
because that's accurate up to, as you guys even say, up to like
Under
20,000 years.
No. No, you've already said that it's accurate far beyond that as well. It's accurate
No,
to just
I never
under.
said that.
It's accurate.
You
to
said it.
just-
I never.
It's accurate to just under 60,000 years.
Okay, that's what you say, right?
No, that's not me. Those are people who actually use carbon dating in their labs. That's what
And
they
that's-
say. That's the scientific consensus.
Okay.
And again, we have beryllium-10 and we have chlorine-36, which will go back farther than that.
Okay. Well, the creation scientists claim they have.
I don't care what the creation scientists say unless you can actually present evidence for what the creation scientists say. Just don't make a claim. Just don't make a claim that creation scientists say anything. You have to actually provide evidence of what you think creation scientists say. You have to give us a paper. You know, put the paper in the private chat so that Peter can throw it up, and then we can look at it.
All right. I'll get you papers on all of them. I mean, the ones they write, they're not papers like you're saying, but they are articles. So I'll get you those.
And
I gave you articles. I gave you
they're
tons of
not
articles.
going to be videos. We cannot get videos because videos are totally meaningless. We have to have actual, written data that we can look at to check it against what we observe and see if it fits the model, this creationist model that you keep claiming you have, but you never present any creationist model that we can check.
Well, I have all kinds of papers I've sent you guys, and I've sent you videos, of course, but I've sent you a lot of stuff. So
you can send it right now.
Huh?
You can send it right now.
I'll send it later. I don't want to. I'm writing them down. So I'm going to send you stuff on ice cores, on tree rings, on the varves. And you mentioned the hurricanes earlier. Well, hurricanes are going down. You didn't say the word hurricanes, but you're saying the world is collapsing because of CO2, and actually hurricanes have gone down.
No, I've never said the world is collapsing because of CO2. Again, you're gaslighting. You're putting words in my mouth.
Maybe you haven't, but other CO2 believers, they
CO2 believers.
Yeah.
Okay, so getting to this whole thing about CO2,
right.
which is totally hilarious. Like I said, I've watched your online conversations in a thread I left on Twitter, which I should have never left, but I left it because there was this person out there just totally spamming the thread. I'm like, I don't want to get all these notifications anymore. So I got out of that thread, and I still post stuff to that thread. But of course, people can't see my posts unless they actually look at my Twitter page and see that that's what I'm posting. But the whole thing about these CO2 claims that you're making, getting back to 1958, again, through ice cores and through other measurements, dendrochronology and VARVs, we know the CO2 levels going back, again, hundreds of thousands of years. We know that before the industrial revolution, that the average amount of CO2 in the atmosphere was about 280 parts per million, and now it's above 420 parts per million. As many people
I've read differently.
Well, then you'd
You're a
have to present.
scientist.
Then you'd have to present evidence for that. I don't
Okay,
care
well,
what
you're-
you've read. You need to present evidence for what you're saying, which myself and others have done on Twitter with you. So getting back to that, we know that the average amount of CO2 in the atmosphere from the end of the last ice age around 280 million years ago to
Sorry, I got a phone call coming in. I'll
no, it's
call
all
you
right.
back.
And that's why I stopped for a second.
Yeah.
So again,
Yeah.
getting back to what myself and others have presented to you, we know that since the end of the last ice age, around 10,000 years ago, which is a fact, to the present, I'm sorry, to the Industrial
So,
Revolution, so around
okay.
1850, we know that the average amount of CO2 in the atmosphere was around 280 parts per million, and now it's above 420 parts per million, which is
425.
a 50% increase. 52 if we're gonna look at it like Melanie was talking about and other people
So,
pointed out to you.
so do you believe that the CO2 is
This is not a belief.
okay, that it is adding up, or do you believe that it's every year it's only increasing because the amount of CO2 is increasing, or is it a like a snowball rolling downhill that just keeps gaining more snow?
I don't understand the question.
Okay, so CO2, as soon as it took care of itself up until the Industrial Revolution, according to what you're thinking.
What are you saying?
And
It took care of itself? Is that what you just said?
in other words, the plants and all the trees and all that, they
No,
changed
no,
all
no,
the
no.
CO2 back to oxygen up until the point
God.
of the Industrial Revolution. Then it no longer could keep up. Is that what you're saying?
No.
Really? I'm shocked to hear that, because we
Why?
know.
Why
I mean,
don't
don't
why are you shocked to hear that?
because I always thought that the CO2 was fixed because of plant life and trees and stuff, and the ocean, the plankton and all that, that they turned the CO2 that everything exhausted, our breathing, the decomposition in the forest and all that, that the plants took care of all that. And the ocean is 71% of the world, the water is. So the water is doing most of the work for us. That's my understanding, until what Melanie was saying was that, and then when the Industrial Revolution started, the Earth cannot keep up with the CO2 production, and that's when it started. Now let me finish what they're saying. They're also saying that since then, since it could not keep up since 1880, or whenever the Industrial Revolution
1850,
started.
1850, everyone is pointing
Fair
this out
enough.
numerous times.
Perfect. 1850. That's good enough. So so then you're suggesting that the amount of CO2 that was introduced starting in 1850 begins snowballing. In other words, let's just say it made one um, 1/100th, one part per million. Okay. So that 1 part per million stays there and starts rolling up a hill or down a hill. And then it collects another one the next year. It collects another next year, but it's no longer 3 because it's been 3 years. It's actually 6 because it's snowballing and those other 3 stay there. Then the next year, 4, the next year. Do you understand my premise?
No, I don't understand anything you're saying at all.
Then, well,
Guys, if I can interrupt real quick. So,
Yeah,
Craig, are you still on the StreamYard page on your phone because your video has frozen?
I know it's been frozen for a long time now.
Yeah, mostly that mostly happens if you go on a device and go on a different page. Then the video will freeze on StreamYard.
Yeah.
Whoop. And
no, you shouldn't have said that, Peter.
I shouldn't have said that.
You
Anyway.
know you know
Anyway.
that he doesn't understand technology. You shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. It gives me the chance to bring something up that I forgot to say.
Yes, please. Yeah.
I'm hoping that we find out whether or not diamonds are plants. That's.
Oh, I know. And
am I back on?
The other thing that Craig brought up, not only diamonds are plants, but that carnivores eat plants.
Yeah.
And there's so many other things out there that I could bring up as well that Craig has said that are absolutely hilarious. So
okay, hold on. So Craig, the camera's working again, so you can pick it back up.
Okay, so let's get through this CO2 thing. So, but you have to understand what I'm trying to say here.
Wait, what CO2 thing?
Okay.
Bringing up certain percentages which we can't use. Percentages are meaningless when it comes to CO2. We have to use parts per million. Okay,
fair enough. So let's say in 1850, the Industrial Revolution added 1 part per million.
No. In 1850, from 1850 to the end of the last ice age, we know that the average amount of CO2 in the air was around 280 parts per million.
Sure. Okay, I'll accept that. I don't believe it, but I'll accept it.
It doesn't matter if you don't believe it. It's just a fact.
And I'm just saying I'm accepting your information. And let's talk about it using your information. That's all I'm saying. You got it?
Go ahead.
We're using your information, assuming it's true. All right. So we're going to take that 280 parts per million on 1850. And we're going to add 1 to it because that's when the Industrial Revolution started.
No, wait a second. Before you go on, we're going to start at 1850. And we know that from the end of the last ice age to the 1850s, the average amount of CO2 in the air was approximately 280 parts per million. It went down a little bit, went up a little bit. Okay. Right. And now
I'm accepting that.
We're not going to talk about year by year. And now it is 425 parts per million, right? Which is 50%.
I'm all over it.
Which is
I believe what you just said. I believe it.
Which is a 50% increase, 52% increase, if we're going to, actually get technical about it. So from this and so again, from the start of the Industrial Revolution until now, the amount of CO2 in the air has increased by about 52%.
Okay, now I'm accepting that, right? I'm accepting that.
Oh, so you are accepting that?
Yeah, I've never denied that.
You have. You keep bringing up 1958 because you won't accept anything older than 1958. So you have not accepted that.
Yeah, I have. Well, I've accepted it to the point where I say that I'm accepting what you're saying as true. Now, I do know this. From 1958 on, I accepted 100%. Before that, I don't. But that said, I'm willing to accept 1850 as 280 parts per million.
Okay.
Fair enough?
Which is a fact, yes.
Okay. But that's 3% and 1%, even less than that.
Wait a second. 3% and 1% doesn't mean anything. What are you talking about? No, what are you talking about? I don't understand what you're talking about. Why are you saying 3% and 1%? What does that even mean?
I've said that so many times, you don't know what that means?
No, I want you to explain to me what that means.
Easy. I think it's
because
easy.
Again, it is a 52% increase.
I get it. I believe that.
Okay.
I'm all over that. You don't need to say that again. I got it, and I believe it. Okay. So here's how you come up with the 3% and 1%. first you have to believe that 3% of 1% is so minuscule that you can't hardly see it. That's the first thing you have to know. And because 1% of 100 is a very small amount, 1 penny compared to a dollar is not very much money. So that's 1% of 100. Now you take that 1%, you take that penny, and you chop that into 100 pieces, and you take 3 of those. That's how much CO2 is in the air.
Again,
Okay.
what does
So in
this
other
have
words,
to what does this have to do with anything?
well, I'll bring it all together. Just give me time to tell it then.
All right.
Let me know when you don't understand me, okay? Because to me, this
I
is
don't
elementary.
I don't understand you from the beginning because I don't understand how you're coming up with these numbers.
Because you have
Yes.
80 in percentage, you have
Percentages don't mean
78%.
anything unless we're talking about the difference between what we know historically and what we have now.
Okay.
So it's an
So-
increase. So it is an increase, and that's the percentage we can talk about. It doesn't.
Okay.
Your 3% of
Okay. Now you're
1%
changing. Just let me finish.
is
Okay.
meaningless. No,
Let me finish.
no.
No, it's not
I'm
meaningless.
going to stop you right here because your 3% of 1% is totally meaningless.
No, it's
Again,
not.
since the
You
start
don't want to
of the
believe it.
from the start of the Industrial Revolution, we know that it is increased to the present. We know it is increased 52%, approximately. Why are you bringing up like 3% of 1%? I don't understand why you're bringing up these numbers because they're totally meaningless for what we're talking about.
Not true. That's your opinion, not mine.
No, I'm waiting for you to explain why you're
I
bringing this
will.
up.
If you quit talking, I'll do it. I promise.
No, I'm waiting for you to actually present something besides saying 3% of 1%.
So,
you're not providing
nitrogen-
any math. You're
It's
just
a fact.
throwing
It's a
throwing out
fact.
numbers. You're just
Cypher,
throwing
you
out
gotta
numbers.
quit talking over me, please.
Well, then
Would you please stop
please
talking over
present
me?
actual
Please?
numbers that
I'm asking you.
we can look up and we can talk about, because what you're bringing up is meaningless. 3% of 1%, what? 3% of 1% over what amount of time? What is 3% of 1% that you're talking about? Like this has nothing to do with anything unless you're actually going to show us some physical data of that. That's what I'm getting to. You're not providing anything besides just throwing out numbers that are totally meaningless unless you're going to place them on some kind of like, spreadsheet. We need a spreadsheet from you is what we need.
All right. So here's how it works. Now, please give me like 5 minutes to explain this.
I'm setting a timer.
Okay. Okay. That's great. I haven't done less than that. So the air we breathe, the atmosphere is 78% nitrogen. 21% of the air we breathe and all the atmosphere, 21% is oxygen. So 78 plus 21 is 99. That means everything else in the atmosphere and the air we breathe is left to 1%. So there's only 1% of everything we breathe is not either nitrogen or oxygen. So of that 1% that's left,
Wait, you said 3%.
don't go there yet. Let me finish. So I'm talking about the air. I'm talking about percentages right now. So the air we breathe, 78% is nitrogen, 21% is oxygen, 1% is everything else. And of that everything else, that 1%, today, 4% of that 1% is CO2. Back before the revolution started, the industrial, what do you call that? Industrial, anyway, when that industry started making all the CO2, that's when it started gaining from 280 parts per million, which would be, which is that 3% of the 1%. Okay.
What?
So now it's 4% of 1%.
No, wait. What?
So,
Oh my God.
So back then it was 320 parts per million,
then.
which was 3% of 1% of the air we breathe. Today it's 4% of 1%, which is 425 parts per million. So what you're suggesting is, because the Earth doesn't even make that much every year, so you're suggesting that, I mean, men, I wrote this all down, so maybe you didn't read it. So it was all on the Twitter feed. So you can take the 370 million tons of CO2 that the Earth produces, that including your breathing and decomposition and all that. So you can take all of that, and then they claim that that man makes 40 million tons. That's 5%. So in other words, the Earth is making 95% of the CO2 today, and man is making 5%. It's all on my Twitter. You can't miss it. So when you add that up, you can't go from 1958 to today. 1958 was 315 parts per million, and today it's 425. So you can add that 5% every year into that, and it does not add up to 425 parts per million. So it's obvious that if CO2 is causing global warming, it's not from man, it's because the Earth is producing more CO2. It's real obvious. So so that's how you come up with that. And again, just so you can, maybe you're not understanding this, but the air you breathe right now is 78% nitrogen and 21% oxygen. 78 and 21 is 99. That means CO2 is less than 1%. And scientifically, of that 1%, only 4%, 4.25% is what it is today. And before it was 3 in 1958. And so, and you're claiming it was 280 back in the 1850s. So
everything you said is, you can't even follow what you're saying.
okay,
I can't follow what you're saying. And
okay.
because basically what you're saying is that we have 78 plus 21 equals
99.
And now you're saying 4% and 3% added on to that, which is over 100%. So everything you just said, no, everything you just said is totally meaningless as far as I can.
You missed it. You missed the main thing. I said all that and you missed the main part. The main part is 99% has not changed since 1960. But what has changed?
99% of what has not changed since 1960?
Of the air we breathe.
So
it's still 78% nitrogen, and it is still 21% oxygen. It's been that way at least since 1958 when they're able to measure that.
Oh, but but again, we have measured that far beyond 1958 because of ice cores, because of varves, and because of dendrochronology.
Okay. Well, you're stuck on that, and that's fine. Maybe it's true. I'm not going to argue with you. We're not arguing that point. So don't change the point.
You're not going to argue with me about a fact. Yeah.
Well,
because
don't change the point.
Evidence to refute that fact.
So, but I'm talking about evidence. But I only want to talk about evidence today. We can talk about the other stuff later if you want to, but today, I want to talk about evidence that is provable and is in our actual history.
Yeah, because we in our actual history, because we can get them from ice cores, varves, and dendrochronology. But the other thing about this is that what you just said is completely inaccurate, because the percent of the atmosphere is not 1% carbon dioxide. So I don't know why you're bringing up 1%.
It's not.
3%.
It is not 1% carbon dioxide.
I know that. So why do you keep bringing up 1% of 3%? I mean, that's
I didn't say it that way.
But you just said it multiple times, didn't you?
No, maybe you don't know math the way I know it. The way I know math.
I taught statistics in college.
Okay, well then you went to a different college than I would have gone to. My wife did
no, I don't care where your wife went. I don't care what you know about statistics. I'm just pointing out that you are not even bringing up anything that we can talk about, because you aren't presenting evidence for it, and you're throwing out numbers that we can't even talk about.
Here's the part you're not getting.
Here's the part that I want to, because you cannot seem to get past.
Don't change the subject. Don't change the subject.
I'm not. I'm directly on the topic here.
All right.
You cannot seem to get past the fact that we measure molecules and compounds in the atmosphere in parts per million.
No, I understand that.
But you don't seem to. We have a percentage that we can throw on those. You know, it's not 78 and it's not 21. Those are nice round numbers. Of course it's not that. We know that for a fact. Okay, here's what it comes down to. What percentage of the atmosphere is carbon, since you want to use percentages?
Is CO2?
Is
You want
carbon
to know how much?
dioxide?
You want to know how much is CO2
Go ahead.
in percentage?
Go
You want to know
ahead.
how much the atmosphere is CO2 in percentage?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, it's 4%.
No, it's not 4% because
Yes, it
78
is.
plus. No, it's not, because 48 plus 21 is 99. It cannot be 4% because that would be 103%.
I know. It leaves 1%, right? If
No,
you got
again,
78,
again, you just said
stop.
78. No, you just
No.
said
If
78%.
You're not listening.
Cypher, if
You
I can
just said
quickly, if I can
78%
quickly interrupt,
carbon.
I think I can help out here.
Yeah.
So there's
He's
1%
off by a
left.
lot.
No. I think you misunderstood, because I got it the way Craig means. I think. So he says there's 1% left, and of that 1%, 4% is carbon dioxide. So it's 4% of 1%. If
There we go.
is that what you said, Craig?
Which is why
Exactly.
I keep asking him what percent of the atmosphere
Yeah,
is carbon dioxide.
I think you missed that when he explained that. It's from that one remaining percent. He's
So
talking
it's
in percentages
so it's
of that
four.
one.
So it's 0.4%.
No, 4/100%.
Oh,
Or
4
4
100ths of a percent.
4/100 of 1%.
Okay.
That's what 400 parts per million is.
Okay.
So 425 parts per million is 0.0425%.
All right. So it's
So that means it is that means it's almost
that
nothing.
means it's increased by 50%.
Yeah, it's increased by 50%. I don't doubt that. I mean, I'm not. I mean, I can read statistics. I mean, or those kind anyway. The only thing that I really loved in school was math. Not that matters, but that's what I love to do. Other than
So why are you
sport.
going? So what is your point in pointing this out and bringing up all
Okay.
these numbers?
So, Peter, can you explain it? What I'm trying to say? You might know.
No, I want you to explain it.
Well, last time I tried, you didn't get it. So since we know now, then I'll go for it. So since we know that the CO2 is only 4% of the 1% left over, which is hardly nothing. That's a small piece of a penny of 100. And it doubled it went from 300 to 400. So that is a 50% increase. I agree. So, and you're saying that happened over, what is that, 160 years, 170 years now. So, so what I'm telling you is that when you look at the actual numbers of what they tell us that the Earth produces, so it produces CO2 every year. You know, we do it, we breathe it. The animals eat things, they poop on the ground. That causes CO2 because it decomposes. Trees fall in the woods, they decompose, that causes CO2. You got volcanoes that cause CO2. You got stuff that comes out of the ocean that causes CO2. And and according to the statistics, and you can look them up on Google, they claim that every year the Earth on its own, if man wasn't here, would produce 375 million metric tons of CO2. And then on the same thing, they will say that man, including all the cars they drive, the industry that they make, the batteries they make, everything we do that we can possibly do, run a ship, we turn on our air conditioners in the summertime, those create heat. We run our refrigerators in our houses, that creates heat. Anything we do creates heat. So, and it creates CO2. But all that CO2 that we create adds up to 40 million metric tons. So that's 750 by the Earth, 40 by us. That's 5%, do the math. So that means of all that 4% of 1%, if you're following me, of that 4% of 1%, only 5% of that man is doing. Okay, so now you've got that 3% of 1%, the 280 parts per million that you're talking about back in 1850, and I'm accepting those numbers, and now it's up to 425. So that's probably over a 50% increase. But you're suggesting that that little 5% that humans are doing of the amount of CO2 that's being produced today is causing the global warming. And I suggest that that is not enough to make much difference at all. Not to mention the fact that the CO2 that is produced, it makes the grass grow better. It makes the trees grow better. They take CO2 and they put it in greenhouses so that greenhouses produce plants better. It does all that stuff. And so when you put the CO2 into a greenhouse, and a lot of them do that because they want their plants to grow better, those plants destroy that CO2. They turn it back into oxygen, and that's what they do. So the more CO2 that is made, our plants are loving it. And even the ocean, because they have the plankton and all that. And so you have all these things going on that are stopping the growth of CO2. But even at that, 4% of 1% is almost nothing. So there's too many other things that could be causing the Earth to warm. And I don't doubt that it's warming. I believe it. So there's two things that could have happened. It's been warming ever since Noah's flood that happened, sometime after Noah's flood, and it probably started happening immediately, and then didn't. I don't know when it kicked in. It's hard to say. And then now we've got the urban heat. Every time you open your refrigerator door, you're creating heat. Every time you start your car, you're creating heat. Every time you do a campfire, you're creating heat. Those things, I think, are doing more to warm the Earth than CO2 can possibly do. So poke a hole in it. I think you just froze on me. Okay.
No, I didn't freeze. I'm just trying to. Okay, so we have deforestation. We have the fact that there is a changing climate causing droughts and other things in certain areas, and of course more rain in other areas. We have urbanization going on that is also getting rid of plants.
I agree with that.
We have.
I think concrete causes more global warming than anything else.
Yeah, the urban heat islands. I've already sent you a tweet about that. The fact that you have a certain amount of solar radiation coming into the Earth is not going to change the fact that we have more concrete or urban heat islands going on. It's all the same amount of radiation coming to the Earth. It doesn't matter how it's absorbed or how it's reflected, unless you're talking about the albedo effect, which basically means that you're having that solar radiation reflected off into space because there is something like more clouds or more ice on the ground. So, all of these things that you just said really don't line up with reality. The other part about this that we have to go into is that there's more than just one greenhouse gas. Methane is 200 times stronger than CO2. We're not going to get into methane right now because I know you totally won't understand that. The other thing about the CO2 that we have in the air, of course, is that we know that the amount of CO2 has increased due to human burning of fossil fuels because of isotope ratios. We know for a fact that the isotope ratios in the fossil fuels we are burning has more carbon-13 than carbon-12. The other point to bring up with this is that the fact that the CO2 in the atmosphere increasing by 50% is a significant amount, and that does lead to a significant amount of heating. All of these things are undeniable facts. The other thing that we have to talk about with this, of course, is the fact that, yes, you do have oceans absorbing CO2, because the water just naturally becomes, it's not effervescent, it's not like bubbly water, but for a long time, there's been a lag, and that lag in the amount of CO2 that the oceans can absorb is slowing down because of the fact that we are saturating the oceans with a certain amount of CO2 that is turning them acidic, which is why we have things going on like coral bleaching around the world. We have an increase in pH levels because of this absorption of CO2. So the amount of CO2 that the oceans can absorb is slowing down overall. You know, so all of these things don't add up. This is the cherry picking and the gish gallop that creationist theology likes to do, which brings me to the last ice age, because there's so many things to talk about when the last ice age occurred. You know, you are claiming that it occurred about 500 years after your mythological Noachian flood. Of course, there's no evidence for that. We don't have any history of it. There's no evidence on the ground, and it's all refuted by various fields of science, not only history and archaeology. It is totally refuted by the fact that I almost forgot to bring this up. We know how warm the Earth was millions of years ago, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of years ago, because of the isotopes of oxygen that are trapped in these ice cores, other places, you know, dendrochronology, certain sediments, because the amount of isotopes of oxygen that are captured in those things directly reflects how warm the Earth was, because a heavier isotope and a lighter isotope will deposit themselves at different time or at different rates due to temperature. You know, so this is getting back to consilience within science from disparate fields, from fields that are not related to one another. So, but you know, getting back to the whole claim that you keep bringing up about there only being one ice age, you know, because this is going to get directly back to carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, how we know it changes climate, how climate is driven by the amount of greenhouse gases, and specifically oxygen, carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. It goes back to the known amounts of certain isotopes of carbon that we have in the atmosphere from the burning of fossil fuels or other things. But, you know, going back to that, you claim that the ice age, and I'm not really switching topics here, I'm just reinforcing this topic that we started with. We know for a fact that the last ice age ended around 10,000 years ago. You claim that the last ice age happened about 500 years, 400 or 500 years after your mythological Noachian flood. Would you like to address that and present evidence for that claim? And if you would like to present evidence for that claim, I think the best thing to bring up would be carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere, wouldn't it be?
Well, I'm happy to explain why I believe that, but I just looked up on earth.org, and so it's looking at the CO2 back to 400 million years ago.
No, it never says 400 million years ago.
Yeah, I'm looking right at it.
No, it says, okay, the first one is 1,000 years ago. The second one is 400,000 years ago. The third one is 650,000 years ago. The fourth one is 800,000 years ago, and then it goes 1 million and 2 million.
Well, that's what I'm not like what I'm looking at.
You're not looking at the link that Peter put up and that I sent to you?
Well, okay. I looked up earth.org. I mean, do you trust that website? I just looked it up randomly. So, I mean, I've never.
.org. Okay.
Okay.
I'm on earth.org. Where do I go?
And I typed in.
No. Okay. You typed in a search.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like earth.org/data_visualization. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff to type in to find it.
I'm a fast typer.
Huh? You're a fast typer? Okay. So let's back up then. It's earth.org/data_visualization. Visualization /a-brief-history dash O of, like, you know,
Just
OV.
send the link to Peter, and I will look it up,
Gosh,
or send it in the private chat, and I can just open it.
okay, but well, let me just tell you what
No,
it said.
no,
Okay.
no. I want you to send it to me in the private chat. Send it to me in the chat.
I don't know how to do it. I can't.
He
I don't have
can't.
that ability.
He can't.
There's
He
the
can't.
chat right there.
Hold on. He can't send it to the private chat because he's looking on the computer, but he's here on his phone, so he can't copy and paste
Well, I
the
don't know,
link.
Can you see this? I don't know if you can see that or not on there. Does that show up?
Hey, I've sent you that same graph before.
Okay. Well, great. Well, that graph goes back to 400 million years ago.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm looking at it right now, and it says it has the one from 1,000 years ago. Well, to like 800 AD, and then it goes back all the way back to 400 million years. But 400 million years ago, the parts per million were over 2,000.
Of course they were.
Okay. But man didn't do that.
No, of course they did.
So you're claiming that because it was higher then, that's why it's warmer. So you're saying the only thing that controls heat is the amount of parts per million of CO2?
No. And in fact, I've pointed out before, and other people have pointed out that to you before. There's more than CO2 is just one of many greenhouse gases.
Yeah, well, I understand that.
You don't seem
fair
to,
enough.
because that's what you're just trying to claim.
But we're just discussing CO2 right now, I thought. So now you're saying that you're saying CO2.
No, you can't.
But now you're suggesting that you're suggesting that CO2 is not what is changing the temperature. It's just the other things also, all put together.
Okay. Let's bring up that chart again. Just show that to everyone again on your. Bring up your computer to the screen again. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a graph. It's a graph that myself and others have sent to you.
Okay.
It goes back millions, hundreds of millions of years.
400.
Okay. That's why I said hundreds of millions of years. Why is it wrong?
Well, first of all, I don't think they know that stuff. But
okay,
but
so
since,
again, it comes down to your
it doesn't matter.
incredulity and ignorance.
No, whether I believe it or not, it doesn't matter. That's not the point.
It does matter. That's the whole point.
It shouldn't matter to you whether I believe it or not, because I'm just using that.
That's why we're having this conversation.
Well, I'm using that evidence to say that.
You're using what evidence?
What I just showed you.
Oh, what the evidence that you just showed me that basically proves that your Noachian flood and your creation mythology is just totally, is refuted by all known science? Thank you.
No, that's not why I did that.
But it does.
So,
it does just that. It's a graph of CO2 in the atmosphere linked to temperatures, showing that your Noachian flood, your creation mythology, and your claims about an ice age are completely incorrect. So you just presented me evidence refuting what you were claiming this whole time. Thank you.
Well, I wouldn't thank me for that, because that's not what I was doing.
But you just did.
What I'm telling you is that in your own information, not that I believe that it's true, but in your own information, it comes to a different conclusion.
No, it shows that increases and decreases in CO2 levels over time are impacting the world's climate because it's a greenhouse gas.
Okay. Well.
Okay, so getting back to your claim about the last ice age.
What can I say?
And then we're going to go to the KT extinction event, because I sent you all this information about the Cretaceous Tertiary extinction event that you totally ignored. I'm going to go to that next after we talk about you presenting evidence that your that your creationist claim that the last ice age occurred around 400 years after your mythological Noachian flood, so around 1900 BCE. What is your claim? What is your evidence for that claim?
1900. Oh. Well, for one, there's a lot of anecdotal, I guess. Is that the right word?
Anecdotal doesn't mean anything. So present
Yeah, it
actual
does.
evidence.
Okay.
No, anecdotal doesn't mean anything unless you can actually present evidence to back up what you're claiming. I'm just going to go grab some water real quick. I'm going to turn on my speakers. I can hear you.
Okay. So, so while that ice age was going on, okay, so the way the Bible discusses it and the way we believe it is that the ice age happened because after Noah's flood, which caused a lot of volcanic action, which is what caused all the layers that you see at the Grand Canyon and other places on Earth. They're not just there, but all those layers are easily seen there. So that's why we talk about them there. And there's other places too where you see them, but that's just the main place. And those same type of volcanic action sandstones that are there found in the Grand Canyon are distributed different places all over the Earth. So you've got, I don't want to lose my place here. So you got these volcanic action going on during Noah's flood, which the water completely covered the Earth. It's not just some small flood somewhere. And so the water has heated up. So as you know, if you, on the stove, if you take water and you heat it, it evaporates. You leave it on the stove overnight, it's gone the next day, it evaporates. So it's the same thing with the ocean, because of during Noah's flood, you had all the oceans of the deep came up and warmed up the water. And as the water warmed up and stayed warm for a number of years, then the flood was over, the waters receded, the Grand Canyon happened, all these things happened. Well, the water's still warm, but the Earth is cooling. And in the meantime, you have all this rain going on because of
Craig, I hate to interrupt you, but we lost Scipher.
Yeah.
So maybe I can help out real quick. The water evaporated. The water evaporated, you said.
Yeah, well, not evaporated, but it was evaporating at a bigger rate just after Noah's flood. Looks like he's coming back.
Yeah, he's coming back.
Are you back, Scipher? You're back? Okay. So after Noah's flood, the water was warmer, so that meant evaporation was larger than it is today, for instance, because the waters are cooler. And so all that volcanic action warmed it up, but yet the Earth was cooling, and you have the North Pole and the South Pole still. You have all this rain going on. And so instead of the oceans filling up with water, and although they were full at the time, but it was raining, and all this rainwater goes to the North Pole and the South Pole, which caused the ice age, and it came down. And the way the evidence for that is that in the Middle East, which is where we think civilization started, because of after the.
Can I ask a question, because Scipher just dropped out again?
Yeah.
Where is any of this in the Bible? Because I'm currently doing a show, reading the Bible, and we have already passed the period that you have been talking about. It never mentioned an ice age. It never mentioned that it only rained on the poles. It didn't mention any of this. So maybe you have a different Bible than I do, but
No, but why would it mention it? Why would it?
You said the Bible is specific about the ice age when it talks about the ice age, but there's no mention of an ice age in the entire Bible.
No, I never said it mentioned an ice age.
Well, you can go back. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe you misspoke. But
no, because I don't.
So to me, it would just, if there was an ice age after Noah's flood, wouldn't the Bible have mentioned that?
Well, no, how would it? Because when they left the Tower of Babel, which is maybe 300-400 years after the flood.
No, it's 100 years.
They left and spread out all over the world. It's kind of interesting that they spread out around the equator. I mean, that's kind of a known fact now. So they didn't spread out up north, like up into Sweden and northern places like that, but they did go around the equator. In fact, Jerusalem, which is where most of the Bible is from that area. They're about, if you're familiar with Dallas, Texas, that's a warm area. They're at that. I never know. I think it's a longitude. I don't know. I always forget which one longitude, which one's latitude. But the one that goes east and west around the earth, they're at the same, I'm going to say, longitude as Dallas, Texas is. And so that meant that they left the Tower of Babel and went directly to the warmer parts. And the Bible does talk about snow. Your sins are like scarlet, but they will be washed white as snow. And so they know about snow. But I don't know that it snows in Israel now because because things have warmed up since then. So I mean, I'm just saying that just by what they said, it was probably colder back then, and now it's a lot warmer. So I have no question that the earth warmed up. But that said, so if all this rain was going on because of the extra warm water in the oceans, because of all the the Hawaiian Islands were built back in those days, so all that volcanic action came up and warmed them up. So that would cause more evaporation, just like on your stove, like I mentioned earlier. If you take water, put on your stove, turn on the gas, it evaporates. So all that evaporation is going on. It's raining everywhere. They talked about in the Bible how they went to the land that was flowing with milk and honey. Well, it don't look at nowhere in Israel looks like a land that's flowing with milk and honey. Nowhere. And that place is desolate. And I don't even know how they live there, but they have to bring in water to make people live. So the only way that could have been a land flowing with milk and honey is if it rained more back in those days. So they were either good liars when they wrote this stuff, or they're just telling you what they know, and that's what they saw. But they wouldn't know there's an ice age. Just like they don't know that there's, I believe that dinosaurs were on Noah's Ark. So, and the proof of that is the Bible talks about Leviathan, and then it talks about the behemoth. And you read the last few chapters of Job, and he talks about the behemoth. He's describing what I call a brontosaurus, but they got a new name for the brontosaurus nowadays. But he's the big tail and the long neck, the thunder legs and all. I'm not saying it right, but if you look it up, it's describing these things. So yeah, it doesn't say ice age, but it's describing everything around it. So and it makes logical sense. So that's why I'm going with that. But it looks like we lost Scipher again. Oh, you're back. Were you able to hear what I said?
Most of it, and you just repeated what you had before.
I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear Scipher.
Oh, I can't hear him. Okay.
Oh, then we've got a problem.
I can't hear him at all. Yeah.
Can you hear me now? How about now?
No, now your sound is going down.
How about now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Get out and get back in.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think you have to refresh, Craig. Maybe something happened on your end too.
Oh, I do. Let me try this. Did that do anything?
No.
Can you hear me now, Scipher? You're on now. Okay.
Okay, I can hear you just fine. Yeah.
Okay.
So you brought this up before. So heating of the oceans means the whole world is going to heat.
Well, okay. But after the oceans start cooling some, then it's going to be raining a lot. More rain.
No, you said heating the oceans. So that means the whole world is going to heat up. That's why when we look back in geological time, what we find is that Antarctica was at the same position that it is now hundreds of millions of years ago, but yet in Antarctica, we find fossils of semi-tropical trees and life forms.
Right. Yeah, that fits right in what I'm telling
No,
you.
hundreds of millions of years ago does not fit in with what you said.
Well, right, that part doesn't. But the fact that you find trees and fossils there fits in perfectly.
It doesn't, because again, we can radiometrically date them to be hundreds of millions of years old, and the various layers show that again, through the process of lithification taking tens of thousands of years, it totally disproves what you just said.
Okay. Well,
Not a guess.
A creation scientist would disagree with that. But
It doesn't matter what
that's
creation
okay.
scientists say unless you can bring it up and show evidence for what you're claiming.
Well, I'll look them up. So you want to know about VARBs?
You are always so unprepared for all of this, Craig. That's what it comes down to. You claim to know things, and then you say, "Oh, it must be out there."
No, I've read them.
So basically, no. So basically, you are the one who is just guessing. You're the one who's throwing out guesses because you can't back up anything you say with evidence.
Okay, well, you say that, but okay.
No, I'm not the only one who says that. You know, the whole worldwide scientific community refutes what you're trying to claim.
No, I disagree.
It doesn't matter if you disagree or not. It's just the fact that you can't present evidence for anything you're saying. And then when you try to make a claim, it's easily refuted by even what you say. I mean, the fact that you're bringing up that the oceans were warmer and that caused more rain, it didn't cause more snow. And again, the ice age didn't occur at the polar regions. In fact, the polar regions at that point, because the Earth was colder, because this is apparently something that you don't understand, that like elementary school students understand. You don't understand that the warmer the atmosphere is, the more the more humidity it can hold, basically. So basically, if the atmosphere is warmer, you have a higher relative humidity, which disproves what you said about the ice age to begin with. It also comes to the fact that if you have oceans being warmer, they're basically giving off more humidity into the air, and also more dissolved water into the air, if you want to think of it that way. You know, because, you know, basically humidity in the air is dissolved water in the air. It's water that's been dissolved in the atmosphere instead of dissolved in a liquid. And the fact that if you have a warmer atmosphere, what that would mean is that you would have more snow and rain at the poles, but that's not shown, because what happened during the ice age is that you have less humidity, you have less rain and less snow at the poles during the ice age, because of it being so cold. The atmosphere cannot hold the humidity to provide enough snow and ice in those regions. And that's why during the ice age, you see the shift in snow and ice accumulation shift south in latitude, if you're talking about the northern hemisphere, and of course north in the southern hemisphere, which is why we see the ice ages happening, which I brought up before, around 60 and 40 degrees latitude is where most of the snow and ice are accumulating. So everything you said is totally wrong and refuted by all known reality.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I disagree with what you're saying there, but, you know, I mean, I hear you. I mean, I hear you. I know you believe that, so. And I'm not saying. Yeah, I'm sorry.
The Bible says, listening to a video, so weird. So weird that you're going, again, to your theology instead of accepting reality.
I wasn't trying to look up a video. I wasn't trying.
But that's what you're playing. The Bible says.
Yeah. Looking up a video and I'm saying that?
That's what we just heard over audio.
Okay, so what I told you was, if I didn't hear me, I said I didn't mean to click on the video. I didn't think I was clicking on the video, and I didn't mean that. So I apologize. I was trying to look up a paper on it, but there's a lot. Oh, here might be one right now. Well, there's a lot of reading here. I mean, I'll just send you some links. That's all I can tell you. And they won't be videos. I'll send you some links, and they explain the creationist view of it, and they all make sense. So
Craig, if you can put the link Craig, if you can put the link in Twitter DM, I can get it from there. If you on your computer go to Twitter.
I will.
Well, you can do that right now,
And
so I can
have
show
to
it.
do it.
So I can show it on screen. I mean,
And
You
what
want me to
they're
do it right
showing,
now, you mean?
if you
that's what you
post
just said. Yes.
if you post the link in our Twitter DM, I can bring it up on screen right now, so you can go over it with Scipher.
That'd be
I don't know how to
perfect.
do that.
I would love that.
I don't think I can do that on my phone.
No, on your
I have it
computer.
on my.
If you go on your
Yeah.
computer to Twitter, and then post the link there.
And I'm not on Twitter on my computer. I have it there, but I don't know how to get it to come up. I mean, not without taking some time. I mean, I'm sure I can get
Okay.
it done if I keep trying.
I was just
but
trying to.
I'll send you a whole bunch of links. I mean, I'm happy to do it. So, and if you want to post them, add them to this later, you can. But I'll send you a bunch of them. So there's a lot of articles, not what you call papers, but they talk about what their opinion is of what happened, and they use actual data. So, I mean, there's a lot of data that you say, Scipher, that I agree with, really, but I just don't see how. Well, I mean, let me just throw one more thing out to just for the fun of it. I mean, I hate to change subjects here, but for instance, here's what the creation scientists are saying now. We'll see what happens in time. But the Hubble telescope is one of the main reasons how we believe that the Earth is, or that the universe is 13.4 billion years old. Is that correct? Or 14 point, the age 14.6. Yeah, right. I mean, it's the Hubble telescope is one of the main reasons. True.
No. Even before the Hubble telescope, we have the Hubble constant.
And that's a telescope?
No,
What is it?
a mathematical formula.
So did it use an isotopes?
No, it's a mathematical formula, the Hubble constant. Look up the Hubble constant right now on your computer.
I think Craig might be confused because the Hubble telescope was named after a scientist.
Yep.
Called Hubble.
Okay, the Hubble constant is a measure of the rate at which the universe is expanding, currently estimated to be about 67 to 74 kilometers per second per megaparsecond. So the Hubble constant is a key parameter in cosmology that quantifies the relationship between the distance of galaxies from Earth and their recessional velocity, which is the speed at which they are moving away from us. Okay.
Which is also known as the redshift.
Sure. Yep, I've heard that too. So, so then they took the Hubble telescope, and now they're seeing out that far, right? 13 point so many years ago, right?
Well, that would be the cosmic background radiation.
Okay, but they're looking out, and that's how far they look, right?
Not
That's
with the
what they
Hubble
got. That's what.
telescope. No, not with the
But
Hubble
that's all
telescope.
that's all the farther the telescope will go out. Is that correct?
No, not with the Hubble telescope.
It'll go farther than that far?
No, it'll go less.
Okay.
Which is why I brought up the cosmic background radiation.
Okay.
Why don't you look up cosmic background radiation? You can see if you can educate yourself live on air.
Okay. Cosmic background radiation definition. Okay. Cosmic background radiation, specifically known as the cosmic microwave background, is the residual thermal radiation from the Big Bang, which occurred approximately 13.8 billion years ago. This faint glow fills the universe and is considered an echo of the Big Bang, representing the oldest observable light. It is a form of electromagnetic radiation that permeates all of space, providing crucial insights into the early universe conditions. Okay.
An observed fact. So an observed fact showing that the universe is at least 13.8 billion years old.
Okay. So let's look up how far out. I got to get off in about 15 minutes, you guys. Sorry.
Oh, I can't go into the KT extinction event and the links that I sent you. I sent you like what 6 or 7 points on the KT extinction event, known facts, evidence. we can't get into that. We'll get into that next time, I guess.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to host another one, and maybe you can
Thank you, Peter.
get some links before the show, so I can show links
I know.
from both of you. If Craig wants to do that,
Oh,
he
yeah.
can send me any links that he has, and then I'll have all of that ready and built in. So all I have to do is then pull it up.
I've got tons, but let's get to the title of the show. Let's get to the title of the YouTube show that Peter set up. You have not presented any evidence, Craig. And that's what this all comes down to. No evidence for anything you're claiming. You're just making
By the
claim
way,
after claim after claim.
okay, and I've heard you say that already today. But at any rate, I just looked up and I said, how far does the Hubble telescope see? And it says approximately 13.4 billion light years away. That's how far it actually sees.
Which is
This
not
distance is close to the age. It says this distance is close to the age of the universe, which is about 13.8 billion years, meaning that light years from objects further away have not had time to reach us yet. Additionally, it is capable of detecting celestial structures up to 10 to 15 billion light years away.
And the reason it hasn't seen that far is because the universe is expanding. And that's why the light hasn't reached us yet. Which is why I brought up the cosmic background radiation.
Okay, so now let's go back. How far does the James, whoops.
It's going to say the same thing with the James Webb. Because apparently you don't know that the James Webb is not looking in visible light. It's looking in other spectrums.
Okay, the James Webb Space Telescope can see light from a period roughly 100 million years after the Big Bang, allowing it to explore the early universe, including the formation of the first galaxies, supernovas. Its large aperture and infrared capability enables astronomers to study distant galaxies and cosmic phenomena that were not visible previously.
So both the Hubble and the James Webb Telescope refute your Noachian flood. They refute your creationist theology of the Earth only being 6,000 years old, because of course the universe must have been created at the same time as the Earth must have been created at the same time as the universe, according to your creationist mythology and theology.
Well, or
no, those are just facts. Those are just facts.
well, they could be facts.
No, they are
I mean,
facts.
I know they're facts the way you see them. I get that.
No, it's not the way I see it. It's just they are facts. Oh, and Craig froze.
I'm still moving. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, you're back
I'm
now.
looking at something. Probably because I quit moving.
Are we gonna is Craig gonna do the research on air right now live when he should have done it before he showed up to this conversation?
Yeah, I don't think that's helpful, because all it gives us is a whole lot of dead air. And
dead air. Yeah,
I agree.
Yep.
Yeah,
So,
well, we can look into that later, and there's some other papers on that too, by the way. That, or I say articles. I mean, that are written. So why don't we call this? And
so just
I'll look some of those things up.
Just for reference, Craig.
Yeah.
For next time, if you are going to bring links, articles are not scientific papers. Articles don't mean a thing. Articles are like people's opinion, which don't mean a thing in science. So if all you can bring is articles, then you might as well bring nothing, because that's not going to help.
which is exactly what I was going to say. Thank you, Peter.
I'm just saying, because otherwise I'm going to have to pull up a whole lot of things, which is basically people's opinions, which don't count at all in science. Whether it's secular science or, as you want to call it, creation science, it doesn't matter. There are a whole lot of secular scientists who have weird opinions on different fields of science, And luckily, those opinions don't count as long as they don't write a paper and bring some evidence. So just keep that in mind. If you want to bring evidence, you need to bring scientific papers or articles that link to scientific papers. That would help too, because then I can shift through those and I can pull out the scientific papers.
I'll try to get you a bunch of them. Again, we got a big thing going on here at our house for the next week, so I'll be busy for a week and a half at least. Actually 2 weeks. So, but if I get some time, I'll do it. I'll look some things up and send them as I get them.
Great. Okay.
Okay.
So, closing statements. So, Scipher, you were first with the introduction, so go first with the closing statement, please.
Yeah, I think, this has been a continuing issue, which you just brought up, Peter, that the claims that Craig has evidence for anything is negated by the fact that he can't support anything he's saying, and also the fact that he never presents any models that we can test. So if he claims that he loves science, which obviously he doesn't love science due to the fact that every field of science he totally rejects because it conflicts with his theological interpretation, and his theological interpretation is creationism. It really has nothing to do with Christianity. It has to do with his creationist theology. So in the future, and we've brought this up from like the first video that Craig and I had together, the first video conversation, that he never gets to showing that he has a model which you can support with the evidence that he says that we are both using. That's why I started out the conversation with the carbon claims that he was making and bringing up dendrochronology, varves, and ice cores. Basically, everything that he brought up after I brought up those three topics, those three disparate fields that all are conciliate. So basically, these three fields that have nothing to do with one another, and yet they all match one another when it comes to talking about how old they are, the evidence for we know how old they are, the fact that each of these three separate fields also use annual layers, they use radiometric dating. We can even look at these three different things, the dendrochronology, the varves, and the ice cores, and we can use those to see how the climate has changed over time because of increases or decreases in greenhouse gases. And this is not constricted to just carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. He can't put all these things together because he doesn't have a model for anything he's saying. And as Craig is basically admitted, he doesn't understand what he's talking about when it comes to these topics. When he brings up what he said on Twitter, which Peter brought up, that, diamonds are made of plants. Something that Craig brought up on Twitter is that, carbon falls from the sky and gets incorporated into the soil and becomes compost or becomes a nutrient in the soil. That's completely not true either. Craig bringing up that, carnivores eat plants. I mean, it's really laughable, and it just shows that what Craig is claiming is due to his scientific illiteracy, his ignorance, and his incredulity when he's presented with facts and evidence. What I really want Craig to do, and what we've begged him to do, and what the title of this conversation was, is for Craig to present evidence, basically models for the facts that we observe. And he's not done that. He's never done that. So what we've seen time after time after time is Craig is doing a gish gallop. He keeps switching topics. He is presenting topics that don't relate to one another. He is showing basically how creationism is self-refuting and internally inconsistent when you check one fact, or one claim, I should say, that he's making from creationism against another claim that he's making from his creationist theology.
You have to
I got
wrap it up.
1 minute left.
You have to wrap it up because
And
Craig needs to go.
And that's it. You know, that's really what it comes down to.
Okay.
Okay.
Craig, last
Um,
words.
Yeah. Well, I guess all I can say is I'll look up some of those
You said
articles
that
'cause
last
that's
time,
all I
right?
got.
Come on.
Because so again, facts are facts, and I think when you go back 13.4 billion years, they're no longer a fact. That's just a guess. So, and they even say that in a lot of the articles I read that are your articles that you believe in. So, those are the facts that I see. So, and also, when they do your isometric carbon dating, they'll take the same rock and if it doesn't fit one type of isometric dating, they'll change it to another kind. Oh, now it fits. So, in other words, you can't take one kind of rock and take it into a lab and have them do a certain kind of dating on it, and then take another rock in there and have them do the same kind of dating on it. They got to change the dating style because it's a different kind of rock. So, but all those things can be refuted, and I don't think they can be called as I would bet my life on it type of fact. So, but a lot of people hang their hats on them. So I get it. But at any rate, thank you guys. And we'll set one up maybe in a couple weeks. How's that sound?
I'll be there.
That would work for me. I mean, we can keep we are keeping in touch on Twitter, so it's not going to be a big problem to set it up once you have time again. I'll remind you, and whenever you have time, we can set up another show. No problem.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. You guys have a great evening.
Okay.
You too.
So
You guys take care.
thanks everyone for dropping by. Don't forget to hit the like button, and we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.